The shuttle moved slowly toward the massive space station. Inside, Ambassador Marcus Cole looked out the window and saw the place where he would fight the most important battle of his career. But this battle would use words, not weapons. At least, that was what he hoped. Concordia Prime was the largest space station in the known galaxy. It floated in the empty space between star systems, belonging to no one and everyone at the same time. More than 300 alien species sent their representatives here. They argued, they made deals, and they decided the fate of entire worlds. This was the heart of galactic civilization, and humanity wanted a seat at the table. Marcus checked his reflection in the dark window. He was 52 years old, with gray at his temples and lines around his eyes. He wore a simple charcoal suit, perfectly pressed. No medals, no fancy decorations, just a man in a suit, carrying a briefcase full of documents. He smiled at his reflection. The smile was warm and friendly. He had practiced it for years. The shuttle docked with a soft bump. Marcus picked up his briefcase and walked toward the airlock. His assistant, a young woman named Sarah Chen, fell into step beside him. "The council session starts in 3 hours," she said, reading from her tablet. "High Counselor Vorthax has already made 2 public statements against our membership application. The Kethari Dominion is lobbying hard to reject us." "I know," Marcus said calmly. "Let them talk. Words are just words." Sarah glanced at him. She had worked with Marcus for 2 years, but sometimes she felt like she didn't know him at all. He was always calm, always patient. Nothing seemed to bother him. The airlock opened, and they stepped onto Concordia Prime. The main corridor was enormous. The ceiling rose 50 meters above their heads, designed to accommodate species of all sizes. Aliens of every shape and color moved around them. Some walked on 2 legs, some on 4, some on dozens. Some floated in anti-gravity bubbles. Some slithered, some hopped. Many of them looked at Marcus and Sarah with open contempt. Humanity was new to the galactic community. First contact had happened only 200 years ago, when a Kethari exploration ship found Earth. In galactic terms, 200 years was nothing. Most council species had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Some had been doing it for millions. To them, humans were babies, primitive creatures who had barely learned to walk. The fact that humanity had advanced so quickly made some species nervous, but most just thought it was funny. Humans lived such short lives. They had no claws, no armor, no natural weapons. They were soft and fragile. What could they possibly offer the galaxy? Marcus walked through the corridor with his head held high. He nodded politely at every alien who met his eyes, even the ones who sneered at him. A group of Vraxi soldiers stood near a checkpoint, their insect-like bodies covered in black armor. They clicked their mandibles in what Marcus knew was laughter. "Look at the little human," one of them said in the common galactic language. "So small, so soft." Marcus smiled at them. "Good morning," he said pleasantly. "Beautiful station, isn't it?" The Vraxi stared at him, confused by his friendliness. Marcus kept walking. Sarah leaned close to him. "How do you do that?" she whispered. "How do you stay so calm when they insult you?" Marcus considered the question. "I've been insulted by experts," he said quietly. "These amateurs don't even come close." They reached the human embassy, a small suite of rooms in one of the station's less prestigious sections. It was nothing compared to the grand halls occupied by the major powers, but it was theirs. Marcus set down his briefcase and looked around the room. "Secure the communications," he told Sarah. "I need to review my notes." As Sarah worked on the equipment, Marcus sat down and closed his eyes. He let his mind drift back to the past, to the person he used to be. Before he was Ambassador Cole, he had been someone else entirely. The United Earth Defense Forces had recruited him when he was 19 years old. They had seen something in him, a certain coldness, a certain ability to do what needed to be done without hesitation. They had trained him, enhanced him, and turned him into a weapon. His code name was Spectre 7. For 20 years, he had done the jobs that no one else could do. He had stopped wars before they started. He had eliminated threats that the public never knew existed. He had walked into impossible situations with nothing but his skills and his training, and he had walked out as the only survivor. His body carried 17 classified augmentations, reinforced bones that could stop a blade, synthetic muscle fibers that gave him the strength of 10 men, A neural accelerator that made his mind process information faster than any normal human. Enhanced senses, accelerated healing. He was, quite literally, a killing machine, wrapped in human skin. But 15 years ago, he had retired. He had seen too much death. He had caused too much death. He wanted something different. He wanted to build instead of destroy. So he had entered politics, buried his past, and worked his way up to the diplomatic corps. Now he sat in a small room on an alien space station, hoping to win with words what he had once won with violence. He opened his eyes and looked at his hands. They were the hands of a diplomat now, clean, soft, holding pens instead of weapons. But the monster was still there, sleeping inside him. He could feel it sometimes, stirring in the darkness of his soul. He had locked it away, but he had never killed it. He wasn't sure he could. Ambassador? Sarah's voice pulled him back to the present. The council session will begin in 2 hours. We should prepare. Marcus nodded and stood up. He straightened his tie and put on his warm, friendly smile. Let's go make some friends, he said. The council chamber was a massive circular room with seats rising in tiers around a central speaking platform. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the seats, a rainbow of colors and shapes and sizes. The noise was incredible, a mixture of voices, clicks, whistles, and sounds that human ears could barely hear. Marcus walked to the human delegation's seats, near the back of the chamber. Observer status meant they had no vote, no voice unless called upon. They were here to watch and learn. At the center of the highest tier sat the High Council, 12 of the most powerful species in the galaxy, and at the very center, in the largest seat, was High Counselor Vorthax of the Kethari Dominion. Vorthax was massive, nearly 3 meters tall. His scales were dark green, almost black. His eyes were yellow with vertical pupils, like a snake. When he spoke, his forked tongue flickered between his fangs. He was looking directly at Marcus, and he was smiling. It was not a friendly smile. Marcus met his gaze calmly. He had faced worse than alien politicians. He had faced death itself, many times, and he had always won. But today, he reminded himself, he was not here to fight. He was here to talk, to negotiate, to prove that humanity deserved respect. He sat down in his seat and folded his hands in his lap. The session began, and Marcus Cole, the deadliest human being in the galaxy, prepared to give the performance of his life. The session began with routine business, trade agreements, border disputes, the small matters that kept the galaxy running. Marcus watched and listened, learning the rhythms of galactic politics. Then High Counselor Vorthax stood up, and the chamber fell silent. We have a special matter to discuss today, Vorthax announced. His voice was deep and cold, like stones grinding together. The human species has submitted an application for full council membership. I believe we should address this request. The way he said the word request made it sound like a joke. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many delegates looked at Marcus with curiosity. Some looked at him with contempt. A few looked at him with something that might have been pity. Vorthax continued. I have studied the human application carefully. I have reviewed their history, their technology, their culture. He paused for effect. And I must say, I am deeply concerned. Marcus kept his face neutral. This was expected. He had prepared for opposition. Humans are newcomers to the galactic stage, Vorthax said. They have been traveling between stars for only 2 centuries. Many species in this chamber were building empires when humans were still living in caves and hitting each other with rocks. Laughter rippled through some sections of the chamber. Marcus did not react. Their technology is primitive, Vorthax continued. Their lifespans are pathetically short. They live, 70 or 80 years? Some of us live for thousands of years. How can a species that dies so quickly possibly understand the long-term thinking that galactic governance requires? More murmurs of agreement. Marcus noticed several delegates nodding. And their nature, Vorthax said, his voice dropping lower. Let us be honest about what humans really are. They are violent creatures. Their history is nothing but war after war. They kill each other over resources, over territory, over abstract ideas. They are barely civilized. Marcus felt Sarah tense beside him. He placed a gentle hand on her arm, calming her. I therefore move, Vorthax concluded, that the human application be rejected immediately and permanently. They are not ready. They may never be ready. The galaxy does not need another violent species causing problems. He sat down to applause from several sections of the chamber. His allies were making their support visible. The council speaker, a floating crystalline being called a harmonist, chimed softly. The human delegation may respond if they wish. Marcus stood up slowly. Every eye in the chamber turned to him. He walked down to the central speaking platform, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. He looked up at the assembled delegates. Hundreds of species, thousands of years of civilization, and they were all watching him, waiting to see what the small, soft, short-lived human would say. "Thank you for the opportunity to speak," Marcus began. His voice was calm and measured. "High Counselor Vorthax has raised some interesting points. I would like to address them." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "Yes, humanity is new to the stars. Yes, our technology is not as advanced as many of yours. And yes, our lives are short by your standards." He smiled slightly. "But I would suggest that these things are not weaknesses. They are strengths." Confused murmurs from the delegates. "Because our lives are short," Marcus continued, "we must make every moment count. We cannot wait for centuries to solve problems. We must act now. This makes us adaptable, creative, determined." He looked directly at Vorthax. "As for our history of violence, the counselor is correct. We have fought many wars among ourselves, but we have also learned from those wars. We have built systems to prevent them. We have created art and music and literature that celebrates peace. Every scar in our history has taught us something." He spread his hands. "We are not perfect. No species is. But we are eager to learn. We want to be part of this community. We want to contribute. And I believe, if given the chance, we can be valuable allies to everyone in this chamber." He bowed slightly and returned to his seat. The response was mixed. Some delegates seemed thoughtful. Others seemed unconvinced. Vorthax was whispering to an aide, his expression unreadable. The debate continued for another hour. Several species spoke in favor of humanity's application. Several spoke against. No vote was called. Finally, the speaker announced a recess. The next session would continue tomorrow. As the delegates began to leave, Marcus noticed something strange. Vorthax was still sitting in his seat, watching the human delegation with unusual intensity, and several Vraxi soldiers had positioned themselves near the exits. Sarah noticed it too. "Something's wrong," she whispered. Marcus nodded slightly. His instincts, honed by years of dangerous work, were screaming at him. Something bad was about to happen. The lights flickered, then they went out completely. Emergency lighting came on, casting the chamber in a dim red glow. Marcus heard the heavy clunk of doors sealing. The emergency locks had been activated. Everyone was trapped inside. Vorthax's voice echoed through the chamber. "Please remain calm. This appears to be a technical malfunction. Security will resolve it shortly." But Marcus saw the smile on the counselor's face. This was no malfunction. This was planned. Suddenly, hidden panels in the walls slid open. Dozens of Vraxi soldiers poured into the chamber, their black armor gleaming in the red light. They were heavily armed with plasma rifles and energy blades. Panic erupted among the delegates. Species that could fly took to the air. Others tried to hide beneath their seats. Some screamed in languages Marcus didn't understand. The Vraxi soldiers ignored them all. They were moving with purpose, forming a circle around one specific area of the chamber, the human delegation. Marcus stood up slowly. He pushed Sarah behind him, putting himself between her and the approaching soldiers. Vorthax descended from his high seat, walking toward the humans with obvious satisfaction. Behind him came representatives of 3 other species: the insectoid Vraxi commander, a gelatinous Morvine diplomat, and a cold, mechanical representative of the Null Collective, Ambassador Cole. Vorthax said, his voice dripping with mock politeness, "I am afraid there has been a change of plans." "What is the meaning of this?" Marcus asked calmly. His voice showed no fear. "The meaning is simple," Vorthax replied. "Humanity will never be part of this council. Your species is a threat that must be eliminated before it grows too strong." He gestured at the soldiers surrounding them. "Starting with you." Marcus looked at the soldiers. 20 of them, at least. All armed, all trained killers. He looked at Sarah. She was terrified, but trying to hide it. He looked at the other delegates, watching in horror from their seats. Some of them had known about this plot. he realized. Others were innocent bystanders. None of them were going to help. He was alone. "You're making a mistake," Marcus said quietly. Vorthax laughed. It was an ugly sound. "The only mistake was letting your pathetic species live this long. Humans are weak. Humans are fragile. Humans die easily." He leaned closer to Marcus. "And when you die here today, we will blame it on the Talaxi, a minor species that no one will miss. And humanity will be too weak and too few to retaliate." Marcus was silent for a moment. Then he reached up and loosened his tie. "I tried," he said softly, almost to himself. "I really tried to do this peacefully." Vorthax frowned. Something about the human's tone was wrong. Where was the fear? Where was the begging? Marcus slowly removed his suit jacket and set it aside carefully. He rolled up his sleeves, revealing forearms covered in faint silver lines, almost invisible unless you knew to look for them. "You did your research on humanity," Marcus said. "But you missed something important." "What?" Vorthax demanded. Marcus looked up, and his eyes had changed. The warmth was gone. The friendliness was gone. What remained was something cold, something ancient, something that had lived in the darkness and learned to love it. "You didn't research me," and the monster opened its eyes. The first Vraxi soldier attacked without warning. It was fast, faster than any human should be able to react to. Its plasma blade hummed with deadly energy as it swung toward Marcus's neck, but Marcus was no longer where he had been standing. To the watching delegates, it looked like magic. One moment the human was there. The next moment he was behind the soldier, and the soldier's own blade was buried deep in its chest. The Vraxi collapsed with a wet, clicking sound. For a heartbeat, nobody moved. Nobody could understand what had just happened. Humans were slow. Humans were weak. Humans could not do what they had just seen. Then Marcus moved again. His augmentations came online fully for the first time in 15 years. He felt the familiar surge of power flowing through his enhanced body. His neural accelerator kicked in, and the world around him seemed to slow down. He could see everything. The positions of every soldier. The trajectory of every weapon. The fear beginning to appear in Vorthax's eyes. He had spent years trying to forget how to do this. Now, it all came back like breathing. The second soldier fired its plasma rifle. Marcus was already moving, sliding under the bolt of superheated energy. He came up inside the soldier's guard and struck once, twice, 3 times. His reinforced hands hit with the force of industrial hammers. The soldier's armor cracked. The soldier fell. 2 more came at him from different angles. Marcus grabbed the fallen plasma rifle and used it as a club, smashing it across the first soldier's face. He spun and caught the second soldier's blade arm, twisted, and felt the limb break with a satisfying crack. He took the blade and finished the job. 4 down in less than 10 seconds. The remaining soldiers opened fire together. A storm of plasma bolts filled the air around Marcus. Any normal human would have been burned to ash in an instant. Marcus danced between the bolts like water flowing around stones. His training had prepared him for situations exactly like this. He had fought in close quarters against superior numbers many times. He knew how soldiers thought, how they moved, where they would aim. He knew the gaps in their formation before they knew themselves. He closed the distance to the next group of soldiers in a blur of motion. He didn't have a weapon now, but he didn't need one. His body was a weapon. He struck at joints, at weak points in armor, at the soft places between armored plates. Every blow was precise. Every movement was efficient. He felt no anger. He felt no hatred. He felt nothing at all. That was the secret. Emotion made you slow. Emotion made you make mistakes. The monster inside him was cold, pure, and utterly without mercy. More soldiers fell. Across the chamber, Vorthax watched in growing horror. This was not possible. The intelligence reports had been clear. Humans were physically inferior to almost every species in the galaxy. They had no natural weapons. They were prey animals, not predators. But the thing moving through his soldiers was not prey. It was death itself, wearing a human face. "Stop him," Vorthax screamed. "All of you, stop him." The remaining Vraxi soldiers tried to form a defensive line. They were elite warriors, trained from birth to fight and kill. They had never lost a battle. They had never fought anything like Marcus Cole. He hit their line like a missile. He took a blade from one soldier and used it to kill 3 others in a single fluid motion. He moved too fast for their eyes to track. When they swung at where he was already somewhere else, already killing another of their brothers. Sarah Chen crouched behind a row of seats, watching in shock. She had worked with Ambassador Cole for 2 years. She had seen him negotiate trade deals and calm angry diplomats. She had never seen this. She had never seen anyone move like this. The last Vraxi soldier fell to the ground. The entire battle had taken less than 2 minutes. 20 elite soldiers, dead or dying, scattered across the chamber floor like broken toys. Marcus stood in the center of the carnage. His white shirt was stained with alien blood in a dozen different colors. His breathing was slightly elevated, but his hands were steady. His face showed no emotion at all. He looked around the chamber slowly. Every delegate had frozen in place. Some were hiding. Some were staring. All of them were afraid. His eyes found Vorthax. The High Counselor was backing away, his earlier confidence completely gone. The Morvine representative was trying to ooze toward an exit. The Null Collective unit was attempting to upload its consciousness to a remote server. The Vraxi commander was reaching for a hidden weapon. "Don't," Marcus said quietly. The Vraxi commander froze. "Drop it," Marcus continued in the same quiet voice. "Or what I did to your soldiers will seem gentle by comparison." The weapon clattered to the floor. Marcus walked toward the conspirators. His footsteps were the only sound in the silent chamber. Every delegate watched him pass, not daring to move, barely daring to breathe. He stopped in front of Vorthax. The massive Kethari towered over him, but somehow Marcus seemed larger, more dangerous, more real. "You made a mistake," Marcus said. "Several mistakes, actually. But the biggest one was thinking that being peaceful means being weak." Vorthax's forked tongue flickered nervously. "What are you?" he whispered. Marcus considered the question. "I used to be a weapon," he said. "The most effective weapon my species ever created. I ended wars. I toppled governments. I killed more beings than I can count." He paused. "Then I retired. I decided I wanted to build things instead of destroying them. I wanted to help instead of hurt." He leaned closer to Vorthax. "I came here to talk, to negotiate, to find a peaceful solution." His voice dropped lower. "You could have just said no. You could have voted against humanity's membership. We would have accepted that. We would have tried again later, through proper channels." He reached out and grabbed Vorthax by his ceremonial collar, pulling the massive alien down to eye level. The movement was casual, easy, as if Vorthax weighed nothing at all. "But you tried to kill me," Marcus continued. "You tried to send a message that humans can be murdered without consequences. You were wrong." He released Vorthax and stepped back. "Now I'm going to send a message of my own." Sarah approached slowly, still shaking from what she had witnessed. "Ambassador." "Marcus, what do we do now?" Marcus looked at her. For just a moment, she saw something human in his eyes, something tired and sad. Then it was gone, replaced by cold calculation. "Now," he said, "we show the galaxy what happens when you underestimate humanity." He turned back to the sealed chamber. Hundreds of delegates were watching him. Hundreds of species. The entire political structure of the galaxy. Trapped in a room with a monster in a ruined suit. But Marcus didn't look like a monster to them. He looked like something worse. He looked like a man who had given peace a chance, and been forced to remember that he was built for war. And somewhere in the back of every alien mind, a new thought began to form. If this is what one human can do, what would happen if they sent more? Marcus walked to the main control panel near the speaker's platform. The crystalline harmonist who served as council speaker floated nearby, its body chiming with nervous vibrations. "Ambassador Cole," it said, its voice like wind through crystal bells. "What are you doing?" "Accessing the station's communication systems," Marcus replied calmly. His fingers moved across the controls with practiced ease. "And don't worry, I'm not going to hurt anyone else. The violence is over, unless someone decides to make another mistake." No one in the chamber moved. Marcus entered a series of codes. They were classified codes, ones that human intelligence had been quietly collecting for decades, codes to access secure channels, override lockouts, and penetrate systems that were supposed to be unbreakable. The galaxy had always underestimated humanity. They saw a young species, technologically primitive, and assumed that meant humans were stupid. They never considered that humans might be watching them, learning their secrets, preparing for a day when those secrets might be needed. That day had come. There, Marcus said, stepping back from the console. Done. Vorthax found his voice. What have you done, human? I've transmitted everything, Marcus said. All of it. The evidence of your conspiracy. The recordings from this chamber, including your own words about framing the Talaxi for my murder. The financial records showing payments between your government and the Vraxi military. The communications between you and your allies. He gestured at the other conspirators. The Morvine representative promised you access to their neural manipulation technology. The Null Collective agreed to provide combat drones for future operations. The Vraxi received weapons and territory in exchange for providing soldiers. He smiled without warmth. Did you really think your communications were secure? Vorthax's scales seemed to turn a shade paler. Impossible. Those channels are encrypted with Kethari military encryption, Marcus interrupted. Which we broke 17 years ago. We've been reading your secure communications for almost 2 decades. We just never had a reason to let you know. Silence filled the chamber. Marcus continued speaking, his voice calm and measured. Right now, every major news network in the galaxy is receiving a complete package of evidence. Every government, every intelligence agency, every public forum. By the time the station's doors open, the entire galaxy will know what you tried to do here. He looked at the other delegates. They'll know that 4 species conspired to murder a diplomat in the council chamber itself. They'll know that the attack was meant to be blamed on innocents. They'll know that the goal was to prevent humanity from ever having a voice in galactic affairs. Vorthax made a desperate lunge toward Marcus. Perhaps he thought he could still kill the human and somehow salvage the situation. Perhaps he was simply acting on instinct. Marcus didn't even seem to move. One moment Vorthax was attacking. The next moment he was on the floor, his arm bent at an unnatural angle, gasping in pain. As I said, Marcus remarked, standing over the fallen counselor. The violence is over, unless you decide otherwise. He turned to address the entire chamber. I want to be absolutely clear about something. Humanity did not want this. We came here seeking friendship and partnership. We wanted to join your community, to contribute, to learn, and to teach. We still want those things. He paused to let his words sink in. But we will not be victims. We will not allow our diplomats to be murdered, our people to be threatened, our species to be dismissed and destroyed. If you treat us with respect, you will find no better friends in the galaxy. If you treat us as enemies, he looked down at Vorthax, well, you've seen what one human can do when provoked. Imagine what all of us could do together. The Morvine representative tried again to escape, its gelatinous body flowing toward a ventilation shaft. Marcus picked up a fallen plasma pistol and fired a single shot. It hit the wall directly in front of the Morvine, blocking its path with superheated metal. No one leaves until we're done, Marcus said. This chamber is sealed with codes that only I can release. So let's use this time productively. He began to pace slowly, his ruined shirt still stained with the blood of the soldiers he had killed. Every eye followed him. Here is what is going to happen. The 4 conspirators will be arrested by council security and tried for attempted murder, conspiracy, and abuse of power. The evidence is overwhelming. There will be no escape, no diplomatic immunity, no quiet deals made in back rooms. He looked at each of the conspirators in turn. Your careers are over. Your reputations are destroyed. Your species will face sanctions and scrutiny for generations. Everything you tried to prevent has been guaranteed by your own actions. Vorthax groaned from the floor. You can't do this. The Kethari Dominion will. The Kethari Dominion will do nothing. Marcus cut him off. Because right now, your own government is watching this broadcast and realizing that you acted without authorization. You gambled with your species' reputation, and you lost. They'll be eager to distance themselves from you. He stopped pacing and faced the chamber directly. And for everyone else, everyone who wasn't part of this conspiracy, I have a message. Humanity remembers its friends. The species who spoke in our favor today, we will not forget. The species who remained neutral, we hold no grudge. We know that galactic politics is complicated. His voice hardened slightly. But we also remember our enemies. We remember those who tried to harm us. And we are very, very patient. He pressed a control on the console. The chamber's main doors began to unlock with a series of heavy clicks. Council security will be here in approximately 5 minutes. I suggest the conspirators use that time to consider their options. Resistance will only make things worse. The Null Collective Unit spoke for the first time, its mechanical voice emotionless. You have made a powerful enemy today, human. The collective does not forget. Marcus looked at the metal being with something approaching pity. Then let me give you something to remember. Before today, humanity wanted peace. We still want peace. But thanks to you, the entire galaxy now knows that peace is not our only option. He smiled, and there was no warmth in it at all. Every species will now wonder what other secrets we've been keeping, what other capabilities we've been hiding. How many more like me are out there, waiting? He walked over to Sarah, who had remained hidden throughout the confrontation. The truth is, I'm retired, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I'm the old model, the obsolete version. The soldiers we're training now make me look like a child playing games. It was a lie, or at least an exaggeration. But the aliens didn't know that. And the seed of doubt, once planted, would grow into fear. The chamber doors opened fully. Council security forces poured in, their weapons ready. They stopped short when they saw the scene. The dead soldiers, the fallen counselor, the single human standing calmly in the middle of it all. Marcus raised his hand slowly. Ambassador Marcus Cole, representing the United Earth government. These individuals attempted to assassinate me. I defended myself. All evidence has been transmitted to public channels. I will cooperate fully with any investigation. The security commander, a heavily armored being from a species Marcus didn't recognize, approached carefully. We saw the transmission. The whole galaxy saw it. Good, Marcus said. Then there shouldn't be any confusion about what happened here. He looked back at Vorthax one final time. The High Counselor was being helped to his feet by security officers, his broken arm hanging limply at his side. His yellow eyes burned with hatred, but also with fear. I gave you a chance, Marcus said quietly. I gave you every chance to just let us join peacefully. Remember that, when you're sitting in your cell. Remember that all of this was your choice. Then he turned his back on his enemy and walked away. 6 hours later, the Galactic Council reconvened. The chamber had been cleaned. The bodies had been removed. The blood had been scrubbed from the floor. But everyone could still feel what had happened there. The memory hung in the air like smoke that refused to clear. The seats were nearly full. Every delegate who could attend had made sure to be present. No one wanted to miss what would happen next. History was being made, and they all wanted to witness it. Marcus Cole sat in a different seat now. Not in the back, with the observers. He sat at the main floor, at a table reserved for species under consideration for full membership. Beside him sat Sarah Chen, along with a team of human diplomats who had arrived from Earth as quickly as possible. Marcus wore a new suit, charcoal gray, perfectly pressed, identical to the one that had been ruined. His hair was neat, his face was calm. He looked exactly like the mild, friendly diplomat who had arrived on the station yesterday. But no one was fooled anymore. The crystalline speaker chimed for attention. The chamber fell silent instantly. This session of the Galactic Council will come to order, the speaker announced. Before we proceed with regular business, we must address the matter of humanity's application for full membership. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Many delegates shifted nervously in their seats. In light of recent events, the speaker continued, several delegations have requested to speak. High Counselor Zethrani of the Velthani Republic has the floor. A tall, elegant being with silver skin and 4 arms rose from her seat. The Velthani were one of the oldest species in the galaxy, known for their wisdom and their careful neutrality. Thank you, Speaker, she said. Her voice was musical, almost hypnotic. I will be brief. What we witnessed yesterday was unprecedented. An assassination attempt in our own chamber, a conspiracy involving 4 member species, and a response that none of us expected. She looked directly at Marcus. I have been a member of this council for 300 years. In that time, I have seen many things. Wars, plagues, the rise and fall of empires. But I have never seen a single individual defeat an elite military force with nothing but his bare hands. She paused. Some of my colleagues believe we should fear humanity. They believe what happened yesterday proves that humans are dangerous, violent, and should be kept far away from the centers of power. Marcus listened without expression. I disagree, Zethrani continued. What happened yesterday proved something very different. It proved that humanity has been patient. They could have revealed their true capabilities years ago. They could have demanded respect through force. Instead, they chose to pursue diplomacy. They chose to be polite. They chose to be humble. She smiled slightly. They only showed their strength when they were given no other choice. That, my colleagues, is not the behavior of a savage species. That is the behavior of a wise species. A species that understands the value of peace, but also understands that peace must be protected. She sat down to scattered applause. Other delegates rose to speak. Some praised humanity's restraint. Others expressed concern about what other secrets the humans might be hiding. A few suggested that perhaps the galaxy had been wrong to dismiss humanity so casually. The debate continued for nearly an hour. Marcus listened to all of it, his face revealing nothing. Finally, the speaker called for the vote. The matter before the council is whether to grant the United Earth government full membership status, with all associated rights and responsibilities. All in favor, indicate now. Appendages, tentacles, claws, and other limbs rose throughout the chamber. Marcus counted them quickly. It was not close. All opposed? A handful of delegates raised their limbs. Old enemies of humanity. Species that had been allied with the conspirators. Their votes meant nothing. The motion carries, the speaker announced. By a vote of 217 to 19, with 12 abstaining, the United Earth government is hereby granted full membership in the Galactic Council. The chamber erupted in noise. Some delegates cheered, some grumbled. Most simply watched to see what the humans would do next. Marcus stood up slowly. He adjusted his tie, straightened his jacket, and walked to the central speaking platform. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. He looked around at the assembled delegates. Hundreds of species, thousands of years of history, the most powerful gathering in the known galaxy, and they were all waiting to hear what he would say. "Thank you," Marcus began. His voice was warm and sincere. "On behalf of humanity, I want to express our deep gratitude for this decision. We understand that recent events have been troubling. We know that many of you have questions about what happened and what it means." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "Let me be clear about something. Humanity does not want conflict. We did not come here seeking enemies. We came here seeking friends, partners, and colleagues. We want to learn from your wisdom and share our own unique perspective. We want to trade, explore, and grow together." He spread his hands in a gesture of openness. What happened yesterday was not a demonstration of what humanity wants to be. It was a demonstration of what humanity will do when we are threatened. There is a difference. A very important difference. His voice became softer, more personal. "I spent 20 years of my life as a weapon. I was very good at it. Too good, perhaps. But I walked away from that life because I believed in something better. I believed that peace was possible, that understanding was possible, that different species could work together without destroying each other." He looked around the chamber. "I still believe that. Despite what happened here, I still believe that the future can be better than the past. That is why I became a diplomat. That is why I am standing here today." He straightened his posture. "But I want to be honest with you. Humanity has been watching. We have been learning. We know things about this galaxy that many of you would be surprised by. We have capabilities that we have kept hidden, not because we wanted to deceive you, but because we were not sure we could trust you." He let that sink in. "Yesterday, some of you proved that our caution was justified. The conspiracy against us went deeper than just 4 species. We know who helped. We know who looked the other way. We know who was planning to profit from our destruction." Nervous murmurs spread through the chamber. Many delegates suddenly found it hard to meet Marcus's eyes. "We will not take revenge," Marcus continued. "That is not who we want to be. But we will remember, and we will be watching. If anyone else is considering similar plans, I suggest you reconsider very carefully." He smiled, and this time the warmth seemed genuine. "However, if you treat us fairly, if you extend the same courtesy and respect that you expect for yourselves, you will find no better allies in the galaxy. Humans are loyal friends. We protect those who stand with us. We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves." He glanced at the Velthani representative and nodded slightly in acknowledgement. "The galaxy is large, and there are many threats out there. The unknown regions beyond explored space, the ancient enemies that sleep in the darkness between stars, The challenges that no single species can face alone. Humanity is ready to stand with you against all of these things. He paused for a final moment. We came here offering friendship. That offer still stands. We hope you will accept it. We hope that yesterday's violence will be the last violence between us. We hope that the future will be built on cooperation, not conflict. His voice dropped slightly. But if anyone threatens our people again, we will respond. Not with anger, not with hatred, just with the cold, efficient application of everything we have learned in our short, violent history. He smiled one last time, warm and friendly and absolutely terrifying. Thank you for welcoming us to the council. We look forward to working with all of you. He bowed slightly and returned to his seat. The chamber was silent. No one seemed to know how to respond. The humans had just been granted everything they wanted, and they had managed to make it sound like both a thank you and a warning. Sarah leaned close to Marcus. That was quite a speech. Marcus loosened his tie slightly and allowed himself a small, private smile. I meant every word. Which part? The friendship part or the warning part? Both, he said. That's the trick, Sarah, you have to mean both. He looked around the chamber one final time. Species that had dismissed humanity as irrelevant were now watching them with new eyes, some with fear, some with respect, some with calculation. It was a beginning. The galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. The small, soft, short-lived species that they had laughed at was now sitting at the table as an equal, and everyone knew that beneath the polite smiles and diplomatic language, there was something else, something dangerous, something that should not be provoked. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment and felt the monster inside him settle back into its long sleep. He had let it out. He had used it, and now he was putting it away again, until the next time, because there would always be a next time. That was the truth about the galaxy, about life, about everything. Peace was not a destination. It was a constant effort, a daily choice, a battle fought with words and patience, and the occasional reminder that violence was always an option. Humanity understood this. They had learned it the hard way, through centuries of war and suffering, and now they would teach it to the stars. Marcus Cole, ambassador of the United Earth government, opened his eyes and smiled at his new colleagues. The monster was asleep, but it was always listening.